"I'm going to make sure everyone thinks this idea was mine," he said, smiling like he'd just been handed the keys to the company. "You're too lazy to care, and I'm smart enough to swipe it. By next quarter, they'll have my name on the roadmap and your name on nothing." Those were Evan's exact words, right across my Slack DM at 2:13 a.m., 3 days before the product launch demo. He added a wink emoji, then archived the channel. He had no idea those words would one day be read out loud to a room full of our colleagues, under the fluorescent hum of our Seattle office's all-hands presentation slide deck. He didn't know I'd rebuilt a trail from his wink emoji back to his username, his laptop, and a dozen manipulated meeting notes. He didn't know a lazy coworker could be undone by a string of green text bubbles. Have you ever had someone at work take credit for something you bloodied your nights to build? Tell me now, would you have stayed quiet? Part 1. The Deception. We were a mid-sized SaaS company in Seattle. Think open floor plans, a kitchen stocked with LaCroix, a view of the Space Needle from the 8th floor conference room. I was a senior product designer. I'd spent 2 years on a feature everyone said would differentiate us in the next VC round. 2 years, countless user interviews, 72 whiteboard sessions. My hands cramped from sketching flows until my fingers memorized the shape of the problem. Evan was a customer success rep turned product coordinator who had joined the company 6 months after me. He had a knack for appearing busy. He wore an Armani blazer with a hoodie and spoke in polished half-sentences. He was the kind of person whose calendar looked full because he double-booked himself with Zoom links and never showed up to most of them. He liked to stand behind developers in the office and say, "What you're doing is interesting," then disappear when tasks got real. A week before the launch demo, our PM Jana pinged the company general channel. "All hands Friday, demo day, be ready." We were all ready, or so I thought. At 2:13 a.m., Evan DM'd me. The exact words are burned into my head. "I'm going to make sure everyone thinks this idea was mine. You're too lazy to care, and I'm smart enough to swipe it. By next quarter, they'll have my name on the roadmap and your name on nothing." I stared at the message, then at the timestamp, and then at his profile picture. The polite headshot, the grin. I responded, "What the hell are you talking about?" He replied, "Relax. I've already edited the demo script. Just don't bring this up Friday." He sent a screenshot of the slide deck with his name on the contributor line. But I had no idea what I was about to discover. In the days leading up to the all-hands, little things added up. Evan started offering to help edit the release notes. He volunteered to write the demo script. When the PM asked who owned what for the launch tweet, he volunteered to draft it. Each time he made himself the visible point person while my pull requests and design files quietly pushed the feature forward. We've all been there. Someone running to claim credit, someone who swoops in at the last second. Anyone who shipped a project knows that red flags can look like charm. I told myself not to overreact. I told myself I'd be at the all-hands and everyone would recognize the work. But people don't always notice who sweats behind the scenes. What would you have done if you saw that DM? Then Friday came, and everything was business as usual. Catered sandwiches, the CEO's quick win slides, a CEO joke about growth metrics, and then the demo. Evan strutted onto the stage with a confidence that made me nauseous. He launched into the feature's story using words I'd written. He used the phrasing I had used in customer interviews. He took a bow while the product team politely clapped. "I'm going to take you for everything you've got," he joked to the front row. But his smile was different, predatory. He didn't say my name. He didn't need to. The applause was for him. The screenshot with his name on the slide was already memorized by half the company. But then my stomach dropped. I opened Slack and saw the 2:13 a.m. DM, and something cold settled in my hands. There had to be more. I had always saved my conversations. I had always archived drafts. I had backups. You won't believe what I found next. Part 2, the discovery. I started looking through our Slack, not the public channels, the DMs and private group threads. I knew Evan had a habit of deleting messages when he thought no one was watching. He'd bragged about cleaning his history once over beers. But I remembered something our IT manager Nina had said in onboarding. We have retention policies. Deletions aren't always permanent for admins. I sent Nina a quiet message. Is there any way to retrieve deleted DMs for compliance? She answered, I can check. Might need HR sign-off. I felt my hands light on fire. I didn't want it to be a fight between me and Evan alone. I needed the platform to make it undeniable. So I printed the initial DM and scheduled a one-on-one with Jana, who was wired to fairness. I showed her the screenshot. Evan's message, the wink emoji, the edit. She read it. Her jaw tightened. This is bad. Jana said, but screenshots can be faked. Why are you telling me this now? Because I think it's not just this, I said. I think he's been taking credit across multiple projects for months. Our roadmap has 2 features that were my prototypes. He's credited in the Confluence pages. He edited deployment notes. I need to know if there's a way to pull the Slack export. She sat back. If he's been manipulating metadata, we should involve IT. But if you want this to be heard, you need more than a screenshot. We got more. Nina ran a Slack audit with HR approval and found 47 deleted messages between Evan and our head of marketing over the last 9 months. 47. Deleted messages, Nina said quietly in my ear. The phrase felt like a headline. She also pulled channel history showing Evan editing posts and reassigning himself as owner of documents in Confluence. Worst of all, I found commit logs on GitHub showing my username as the original author of code pushes that Evan had later copied into a vendor-facing repository he managed. The commit timestamps, the diffs, the comments, all mine. They were preserved. I remember thinking, this is 2 years of lies. 2 years of someone slowly building a web where every public touchpoint attributed work to them. You won't believe what I found next. I saved everything. Slack exports, Git diffs, Google Drive version history, exported Confluence pages with edit histories. I printed out PDFs and stored them in a folder titled Proof. I took screenshots but also preserved raw files. I shared copies with Jana and Nina, and reluctantly with HR. There was danger here. HR could bury it, or they could use it to protect the company. I needed allies who wanted the truth exposed, not covered. I also reached out to 2 ex-colleagues who had left the company in the past year. One, Maya, a front-end dev who is now at a competitor, agreed to look at the commit history. This is painfully obvious, she said. Someone's rebased commits and changed authorship to make it look like a different contributor pushed it. It can be hidden, but the original timestamps and comments remain. He lazily copy-pasted author lines. Maya's email back felt like a confirmation, but sneaking evidence into HR's hands wasn't revenge yet. It was preparation. I needed a stage where the evidence couldn't be misinterpreted. An all hands, too public. A manager meeting, too small. The board meeting, not accessible. The only time everyone would be watching and the team would have to respond publicly was the all hands. I decided that if I could get the CTO and HR to agree to present the audit findings at the next all hands, the truth would be undeniable. But the plan felt impossible. HR was skittish. Evan was already well-liked by senior sales leadership. He had a habit of telling half-truths that sounded noble. I just want to help, he'd say. He'd already cornered the narrative that he was a bridge between customers and product. People loved bridges. What happened next almost derailed everything. Part 3, the preparation. I won't sugarcoat it. Preparing for this kind of public exposure felt like walking a tightrope. I needed the right allies, the right evidence, and the right timing. I had 3 major setbacks that made me think I'd fail before I even started. Setback 1. HR tried to mediate. They proposed a quiet coaching plan. We can provide Evan with mentorship and credits can be clarified in internal documents. HR said, in other words, a non-public solution that would never correct public perception. I argued, This is not mentorship. This is fraud. HR said evidence was circumstantial. That night, I almost gave up. Setback 2. Jana, my PM, was promoted unexpectedly. With the promotion came a shift in priorities and an instruction from the CEO to avoid internal drama. "We need focus on Q4, she told me in a voicemail. "I can't make this public now." I remember thinking we'd lost our most powerful ally. Setback 3. Evan got wind that HR was investigating. He texted me 3 times in a row that week. "Why are you making everything so hard? You're blowing things out of proportion." The last text said, "Do you want to get fired?" For a stretch, it felt like he could bully his way out. He was trying to intimidate me, and it almost worked. Any one of those setbacks would have been enough to stop me. All 3 stacked together felt like a wall. But then I found another ally, not inside the company, but one with the kind of authority HR can't ignore. Our largest customer, a health tech firm that had been on our roadmap calls for months. We had a private conversation with the customer's head of product, who admitted they'd been using my prototype early in their beta and had signed emails praising the product team's design, attributed to my username in threads. They agreed to let us quote their emails on record in the all-hands. I also roped in Maya, who agreed to do a live walkthrough of the commit history with a cynic's eye. Nina from IT agreed to present the Slack audit log, and Jana, despite the CEO's pressure, pushed back and told the CEO, "If we don't air this publicly, we embolden behavior that will cost us trust." That got the CEO's attention. He hates PR risks. We rehearsed. We tried to anticipate Rooney, Evan's fallback maneuver. He would claim he'd contributed in meetings and that the public records were messy. We practiced the precise language HR would use. We made sure we had copies of each opaque edit history printed and time-coded. We decided not to attack him personally. We would present the facts and let the data speak. But despite the careful choreography, there were 3 moments when it felt like the plan could collapse. Moment 1. On Tuesday, Evan scrambled and produced an open letter to the company claiming he was the one who'd championed collaboration across departments, and that any perceived ownership confusion is a systemic issue. The CEO called it a thoughtful note. I felt like I was back to square one. Moment 2. An engineer messaged me at midnight. "There's a merge conflict that looks like someone rewrote commit history. If the Git logs are squashed, we might have lost the timestamps." I almost threw my laptop across the room. Moment 3. On the morning of the all-hands, the conference room's projector failed during the CEO's opening remarks. Technical chaos felt symbolic and terrifying. Would the CTO be able to pull up the audit screens? Would our emails be visible? The possibility that a technical failure could bury everything was real. But then, and this was the turning point, the customers. Head of product, an unequivocal stakeholder, sent a message to the CEO at 9:01 a.m. "We're willing to confirm that the design and early user correspondence came from identified addresses tied to your employee X. This matters for our contract." The CEO replied, "Bring this up at the all-hands. Full transparency." The projector issue was fixed in 5 minutes by our IT hero Tom, who had a knack for calming panic. We were on. At 11 a.m., the all-hands agenda included a surprise slot, transparency and ownership. My heart was a drum. I sat in the back, folder on my lap, and watched Evan smiling at people like nothing was coming. He texted me, "See, I'm being recognized. You're welcome." Would you have sat through the first 5 minutes? I wanted to stand up and shout. Instead, I breathed and waited. Part 4, the confrontation. The CEO introduced the segment. "We have an important matter to address," he said. "It's about credit, ownership, and our values." Nina walked to the stage with a laptop, her fingers steady. "We audited a set of interactions after an internal concern was raised," she said. Then she clicked. The Slack export appeared on the screen. Direct messages, timestamps, a chain of deleted messages now recovered. The room leaned in. On the screen, large and undeniable, was Evan's 2:13 a.m. message. I'm going to make sure everyone thinks this idea was mine. You're too lazy to care. It showed the wink emoji. The room went very quiet. You could hear collective breathing. Evan's face shifted. He blinked. His mouth opened like someone deciding what mask to swap into. That's doctored, he said reflexively. He sounded small. Doctored? Jana repeated, almost laughing. This screenshot is from our Slack export. It's been cross-verified by IT and time-stamped it. But you can edit screenshots, Evan said, trying to regain footing. I mean, anyone can. That's why we have the raw files, Nina said. On the screen now, GitHub commit history with my username in the original commit message, followed by a copied commit bearing Evan's username pushed to the vendor repo. The screen showed diff comparisons, line by line, with comments I had left. The customer's email popped up next. We confirm receipt from my email praising the team's early design. The timestamps were immutable. You're too lazy to care. The room echoed as people read the DM aloud, the line like a bell. Evan started to perspire. He reached for his water bottle, then realized it wouldn't help. How do you explain this? The CEO asked. Evan swallowed. I was coordinating. I pulled things together. Everyone knows I like to bring teams together. The CTO clicked again. On the screen, a Confluence page showed Evan as the last editor of the release notes. But the version history revealed he had simply copied and pasted from a doc authored under my username 3 months earlier. There was also a red flag. His account had a history of deleted messages to marketing where he negotiated. Visibility in press releases. Every time he told a half-truth in a meeting, there was a green trace somewhere in Slack or Git or Drive. According to this disclosure, the HR director said, we found 47 deleted messages between Evan and external marketing channels that misattributed ownership. We have copies. She paused. We also have documented evidence of misassigned commits and edits. As a result, we will proceed with corrective actions. Evan's posture collapsed. This is so embarrassing, he whispered. Guys, I didn't mean to. You meant to, said Tom, the engineer. I remember you in our team sync rewriting the PR description, and you were laughing about how easy it was to rebrand others' lines. He'd been caught in multiple small ways now, on the record. The all-hands room felt heavier, like the air had sucked the oxygen from his self-protection. Actions will follow, the CEO said. We hold ourselves to accountability. Marketing will correct attributions publicly for any external materials affected. Product will reassign credit on the roadmap. HR will review disciplinary measures. Most importantly, we'll issue an internal memo clarifying authorship. Evan looked like he might apologize. Instead, he tried the old charm. I was trying to help the company, he said. This was never personal. That's not what your messages say, I heard myself say, before I could stop it. You called me lazy and planned to swipe an idea. You cleared slides under my name. That's personal to me, and it's personal to the people who trust us. Silence. 6 dramatic pauses. People shifted in their seats. You could feel the victory in that room. Not a gloating one, but a collective relief that honesty had won. I have the screenshots if you don't believe me, I added, because I had to. And the commit history, and the emails. Evan's face went papery. The CTO, who rarely spoke in an emotional register, said quietly, this undermines our trust with customers. We can't tolerate deliberate misattribution. We'll be issuing a performance improvement plan, HR announced, and we'll be placing a notation in personnel records. Depending on future behavior, this could escalate. Is that all? Someone in the back asked. What about the promotion he took earlier this year? The CEO swallowed. We will review past role changes for any pattern of misattribution and consider reversals where appropriate. And then the final blow, the customer whose emails we'd quoted had also agreed to submit a public correction to a testimonial that had credited Evan. The CEO read the proposed correction out loud. The words were like a cleansing. We wish to correct a previous testimonial and acknowledge the work of the product design team led by their senior product designer. It named me. Evan's shoulders went slack. You could see the color drain. The room hummed with the sound of staff checking through the evidence on their phones. Some whispered, "Wow," or "I can't believe he did." "That," someone muttered, "what a waste of talent." "You'll get to explain yourself to HR and the leadership team," the CEO said. "For now, this doesn't reflect our values." Evan didn't fight. He stood up, gathered his things, and left the stage like someone exiting a play after the curtain falls. Outside the all-hands room, he ducked into the kitchen and texted frantically. But there was no charm strong enough to rewrite forks in Git or reanimate redacted Slack logs. Would you have felt relief, vindication, or guilt at public shaming? Tell me, would you have wanted this private or public? Part 5. The Aftermath. 3 days later, HR announced that Evan would be placed on a performance plan, lose eligibility for the upcoming bonus cycle, and be removed from the product contributor list. Marketing issued corrections on 2 client-facing pages and reissued a press release citing the correct authors. The customer updated our testimonial. Evan sent a message to the company. "I made mistakes and I'm working on being better." Some people were sympathetic, others were not. Officially, the company called it a breach of expected conduct. Unofficially, Evan's reputation was diminished. He was reassigned to a role with less cross-team exposure. He left the company 3 months later for a smaller firm in Bellevue. For me, life didn't instantly become perfect. There was no dramatic promotion, no champagne in Tuscany, but the load I'd been carrying lifted. I presented at the next product review, and the roadmap slide had my name where it belonged. Customers thanked my team for the clarity. My relationship with my peers strengthened in a way words can't fully capture. Maya and I celebrated with cheap sushi in Ballard. "You did the right thing," she said, and I believed her. Here's the universal bit without sounding preachy. Small lies compound. In a company, credit is the currency of career movement. When someone hoards it, others pay. Exposing that doesn't have to be cruel. It can be corrective. Anybody who's been through it knows that silence lets poor behavior calcify. I kept the folder of evidence. I still have the Slack export saved in an encrypted drive. I have the PDFs. The court of public opinion might sound dramatic, but in modern workplaces, transparency matters. We corrected our records, and more importantly, we corrected our culture. Was I wrong to orchestrate a public reveal? Some people think I should have handled it privately, with coaching and a quiet correction. Some people said I risked turning a problem into a spectacle. But ask yourself, if you had 47 deleted messages and 2 years of misattribution, would you sit down? Tell me I'm not crazy for what I did next. Would you have done it differently? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want to see screenshots. Yes, I have them. I saved them for posterity. But more than the proof, it's the ripple effect that matters. Credit returned to where it belonged, and the company, I believe, is stronger for it. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories of justice served, messy, modern, and sometimes controversial, subscribe and hit the bell. I've got dozens more like this one.